Welcome to Unleash the Networks podcast, where we aim to educate and inspire our listeners by sharing stories of African Leadership Academy alumni and MasterCard Foundation scholars who have gone on to make a positive impact in their communities and promote values of leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship. You deserve to be here.
And here deserves you to be.
Well, Dean Hatim always said that to every student who walked into the academy.
Indeed.
Why do you think he said that?
I think he said that because, ALA is such an intimidating place if you are to make the first appearance. The first few months that you as a student try to experience different things and experiment perhaps, different cultures, classes perhaps, and different activities that the academy have, you'll most certainly, feel like, there's something that is changing within you, and more often you'll start doubting yourself, right? So I think that statement is just an affirmation that indeed you are at the right place and you have what it takes to indeed succeed in the place and be the best version of yourself.
I think ALA usually helps people succeed in their spaces, right? And gives them the opportunity to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
So how was your experience like at the academy?
Renatus is quite interesting when I think about it, because it has been 3 years, but the experience and the memories are still very fresh and relevant to date. I'll summarize my experience in 3 keywords. My experience has been transformative, it has been challenging, and it has been meaningful. Yes.
Transformative, challenging,
and meaningful. Yes.
Let's start with transformative.
Yes.
Were there any particular experiences in the academy that transformed the person you were or the way you are thinking and viewing the world?
Definitely, especially my second year at ALA. We had different classes, and there were a time where we had to choose electives, I believe, for the upcoming year. So I made a choice to go for creative arts class. This was a rather critical, yet one of my proudest decision I've made also at the academy, because I think it is through that particular choice that I was able to begin my music production career. And I was able to meet a lot of creatives at the academy whom I had not got a chance to actually experience their works. So we basically co-created each other in that particular class. It was small, and I was the only boy, by the way.
That's interesting.
In that class, and thanks to Dr. Kahudi, she really made it possible for everyone to feel, for everyone to feel belonging to the class, and for everyone to be as open as they could to share their experiences. And I believe I really learned a lot from that class. Yes.
Post-ALA, did you proceed with your production and music and creative arts career?
I actually expanded. I remember when I was at the academy, I started this little thing. I was with my roommate, Ernest Boroto from Lesotho. Yeah. And of course, he was also very passionate about music. So when he learned that I was also doing music, he used to give me this great ideas, at night perhaps, and I'll sit down with the laptop. I didn't have a keyboard to actually start, a MIDI keyboard to actually begin my production process or journey, but I actually started using a laptop to produce the beats, and we will enjoy first with Boroto before I'll release it to the community. So eventually I opened up a YouTube channel called Samwel Beats, and I called it Samwel Beats because I wanted to pay tribute to my grandfather who just passed on before I came to the academy, and he was a man who really believed in me. So I believe that by embracing that particular identity, I'll also be able to reflect some of the values that he had as an individual and reflect some of the dreams he had for me as well. So we did started the music production process, and here I am today. I'm not that big, but I think I've made I've covered some miles, and I can't definitely compare where I am today with where I was when I was at the academy.
This podcast aims to educate and inspire listeners.
Yeah.
And one of the things you have mentioned is that you had someone who believed in you. How important is it for our listeners to find someone who believes in them in their journey?
Wow, that's a very fantastic question. Yeah, I think even though we might always feel like we are the masters of our fate, we are the ones at the driver's seat for our future, is oftentimes true. But in practical sense, life has a lot of ups and downs. And we will find most of the time stranded. We'll find ourselves stranded sometimes as a result of different challenges. And you might actually go to an extent of failing to know or failing to remember who you really are. So having people who believe in you, even when you're pursuing your wildest dreams, even if you are casting your nets very wide than the conventional way, you then always know that there's someone back there, either at the academy, either in your village, or either, your classmate, who always believe in you and who always know that you are capable of doing something. So it makes you an intrinsically motivated person, where you are motivated based on what you believe and based on the connection that you have. So I think for me personally, that has been very constructive. In fact, in my own music journey, where I am in a profession where I didn't go to formal trainings, I didn't attend any music production classes. I have never been at the studio in my village before, you see. So I was alien to different things. But having the community, the class of 2018, listening to my music, sharing amazing messages on the WhatsApp group like, hey, Samuel, keep going, keep pushing, you can make it, And now that I listen to the music that I used to produce, I'm like, what did these people really see in this? So it's just amazing to see how having a support structure could actually help you achieve more than you can think.
I was in the class of 2018 and it was an amazing class, that I can tell you.
Absolutely.
Post ALA, how
Yes.
has your music career been? And I think we can specifically talk about Samwel Beats, because you mentioned it as one of the projects that you have been working on.
Yes, post ALA, Samwel Beats has grown from just being an entertainment channel to a change-driving YouTube channel, if I can put it that way. And personally, I've found so much meaning in my career, where initially I was oriented to only, perhaps motivate people, perhaps entertaining people. But then now my orientation has slightly changed after graduating from ALA, where I'm now able to use my music as a voice, to address key issue in my own community and in our continent at large. And one of the products of Samwel Beats actually is the sister channel, which is Educated Talents, where as a result of the pandemic, realizing that schools were closed, teachers were unevenly distributed, kids were stranded, I realized, why shouldn't I use the rather common tool that is there? Every kid listens to music. So why can't I tap on that and deliver educational contents to students remotely? And I was able to produce my first song, and ever since I've really found meaning beyond entertainment in music. And I hope the world also realize that music is really beyond entertainment. It's a voice in its own. It's just what content, what voice, which kind of tone do you want to speak to people? Yes.
That sounds like a really creative way towards problem solving.
Yes.
Were there any skills or values that you learned from the African Leadership Academy that helped you think in the way that you were thinking when you're coming up with such a project?
Yes, absolutely. I think ALA skills and value sets have really become part of who I am today, have contributed greatly to who I've become today. Looking at things like autodidactic, as I mentioned, I didn't necessarily have a pre-exposure to music production. It's fairly a new field that I had to embrace at the academy. And I think being autodidactic helped me to kind of search on my own and being able to realize, okay, we have various opportunities that I can leverage as an upcoming producer to actually learn production and improve. So that is one of the single most value that I think to this date actually is very practical. But of course, we have things like compassion, where we must be in a position to understand what others goes through for us to be able to design working solutions for them.
For us to be able to design working solutions for them. So you have shared a bit about Educated Talents and Samwel Beats, which are two of the projects that you're currently working on.
Yes.
What impacts have these projects been having on the community?
My impact can be both qualitative and quantitative. Yeah, so when we look at the quantitative aspect, we've been able to reach way over, close to 10,000 kids, directly, actually, with the music that we have been able to produce. I was privileged to carry an extensive research here in Rwanda to basically understand the contribution of music to enhancing children's learning ability. And I was shocked at the number of schools that expressed their interest from the study that I was conducting at that time. And from then, it led to me producing content that they would use to experiment. So various classes here started using the contents, especially primary school. But also this is not to mention the numbers that we've been getting also on other channels like YouTube, where people have been going to listening to the songs, providing feedback on where we can improve, what they like. So far we have had close to 10,000 people impacted. But if we look at it from a qualitative point, now I'm deviating to Samwel Beats, where I basically produce Afrobeat, Amapiano, the normal music, So from that, I think it's from a more of a mental health perspective where people have really found comfort. Most people have found comfort in the music that I've been producing so far, where there are people who openly expressed to be struggling with certain mental, conditions, and through listening to my music, they have been able to find basically find peace. They have been able to move away from this stress situation that they were in. So that means a lot to me, and I think it's a drive of why I stand today, and as why I still identify as a music producer, even though it's a fairly challenging field.
But that must really inspire you.
Indeed.
The comments that you've been receiving from the individuals who have been consuming your content.
Absolutely.
Music production is quite a challenging field.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges that you have been facing in the industry?
Renatus, when you look at the music field itself, I think one of the challenges that we have all been facing is the fact that people don't understand the creative process. And I think it's not just for musicians, but other artists who actually encounter such challenges where people, especially the end users, if I may use that word, don't necessarily understand the creative process behind what they are consuming. You get? So as a producer, for instance, the moment I hit the studio, there are a lot of things, there's a lot of tasks, there's a lot of composition, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of imagination that I have to go through for me to be able to deliver the content. Now we have just ended our consumption from an appreciation point where it's like where we will just say, oh, that's great, that's a good content. But appreciating the process itself, I think, would actually help us even enrich the field more. So that's something that I'm really still seeing as a problem, where we have even a lot of talented artists, for example, but they can't compete at global stages. Why? Because people don't understand the creative process, right? So until we reach at a stage where people are very conversant and they are very open and they are very expressive about the creative process that artists go through in terms of making the works they love, then it is going to be hard to position Africa on the roadmap, on the global stage, the entertainment stage, which is fairly competitive as well.
So we might have a young person listening to us from any part of the continent, really, and they might be inspired to start producing music or get into the music industry.
Yes.
What is your advice as someone who has been in this industry for quite some time to them?
I'll say music is not about the sound. Music is about the mind. All music is actually made in the mind. What you hear is just the translation of what happens in the brain. So as a music producer, I think I've gone through phases where I didn't necessarily have the resources that I needed at those particular moments, and I was still thinking about, I was still having active imaginations. So I would advise aspiring musicians, especially producers, to not necessarily confine or cage their minds based on the resource scarcity or resource status at the moment, but really having their mind going wide, in terms of thinking. Music is all in the mind. All that you guys hear at the end of the day is basically what we were actually thinking what we were, the feelings, the messages that we wanted to pass. So that should rather be the central point for all the producers who are aspiring, to make an impact in the industry.
Music is in the mind.
Music is in the mind.
How has this journey transformed Emmanuel as an individual?
You see, Emmanuel was a very introverted individual, and most of my classmates will actually say that, especially for the first year. I really liked to stay alone and everything. But I feel like once I landed on this particular career, then I really became a very open person who is not afraid to being vulnerable. Every sound that I release reflects a piece of me. That's what I always tell people. That's a piece of me I give to the world. And you have to attain a certain degree of vulnerability for you to be able to basically share such particular things. So Emmanuel has moved and has changed from a person who is a bit shy to express himself to a very expressive person. Emmanuel has grown to be a more autodidactic person who is not caged by the current reality. Emmanuel has become a very optimistic person who still think and believe that Africa still has a chance, especially in the entertainment field. Emmanuel has grown to be a person who is intrinsically motivated, who is driven by impact, not by any other thing. Yes.
Thank you for sharing your story through music to us.
You're welcome. It's an honor.
Can you give a shout out to anyone from the African Leadership Academy who might be listening to this?
Yeah, honestly, I have a lot of people. I'll start here at the African Leadership University. Shout out to Nana, shout out to Demsata, shout out to Emmanuel Mate, shout out to the whole class of ALA 2018, Martin, Emmanuel Makoye, Lisa, all the amazing people, Ife, Bolaji. Shout out to Mr. Nkembo, shout out to now CEO Hatim, shout out to Dr. Hahudi for really impacting my music journey. I'm very grateful for all of them. And Miss Nicole, by the way, my advisory mom.
I'm pretty sure if I allowed you to go, you'll probably go on for an hour.
Until tomorrow.
Emmanuel,
yes.
You deserve to be here.
And here deserves me to be.